Welcome to PC Woods Kids Tech Talk. Today I wanted to show you the Cooler Master Hyper N620 CPU cooler. This one here has a familiar design that I've seen in many other CPU coolers on the market, but this one here supports the latest Core i7 processors, as you can see, as well as the Core 2 Duos, Core 2 Quad, the Extreme, the Athlons, the Phenom 2s and 3s with the AM3 socket, AM2 Plus socket. So basically any of the latest CPUs on the market. Now it is a little bit heavy, 847 grams, and that's for a good reason, right? Because it is a little bit big because it has two fans, one on either side. So they're 120 millimeter fans, they're blue LED fans, actually 800 to 2000 RPM each, and sandwiched in between both of those you see the aluminum fins and 6 copper heat pipes are going into those aluminum fins, as you can see right there in the middle. So it's an interesting design. If you look at it, it's kind of slanted going to the side there. So you've got the air coming in from the top, and then it's actually going to go through and come out through the other side, so it exits the exhaust of your case. It's a pretty standard design for a CPU cooler, of course, but this one is very efficient. Let's take a look here at the nice flat surface, the copper base here, as you can see, with the 6 copper heat pipes going into either side. And installation is actually quite good with this. And all you need to do is figure out, okay, what CPU are you using, and follow the manual. It will tell you which parts you need to use. So I'm going to be installing the Intel Core 2 Quad processor on here. So I've got the brackets for the LG A775, and I'm attaching these brackets like it says in the instructions, putting in the screws, and then after that putting in some anti-vibration washers, these rubber washers on either of all those corners, so that way we don't get vibration on the motherboard. So everything comes with the CPU cooler, of course, so you don't need to go out and get these anti-vibration washers. But once you have those in place, then the next thing to do is to put the thermal paste. Now with this, it comes with the Cooler Master thermal paste, but I'm using the TX-3 from Tunic. That's the thermal paste that I use in all my videos, and this one here is very efficient, a good combination, especially if you're overclocking. And if you are overclocking, you might want to put a little bit more than a pea size, just in case, because on these type of CPU coolers you want to make sure that there's a good contact at the bottom, so you might want to put a little bit more. Some CPU coolers have a smaller base and they don't need to touch as much, but this one here has a pretty large base, so that's why I had to put a little bit more than just a pea size. Now look here at the air again going through after I installed it. You can see how it's aligned and it goes out through the back. Now this is the test system that I'm using, of course, with this cooler. At 3.4 gigahertz, I've overclocked this Intel chip. So we're going to see how it works here based on the settings that you can see for this test system. So opening up CPU-Z, you can see here this is the Intel Core 2 Quad, the socket 775, the LGA, running at 1.344 volts. And I overclocked it from 2.66 gigahertz all the way up to 3.4 gigahertz. So how does this perform when it's at idle? When it's at idle, well, roughly it's about 30 to 35 degrees Celsius. Okay, so you can see there the 4 cores and the degrees Celsius for each. Now, when I run this at 100% full load, we're talking about 41, 42, 43 degrees Celsius now on those cores. Still very, very cool compared to other CPU coolers that you might get on the market. So this one worked really, really well, considering that I overclocked it and the CPU wasn't even breaking a sweat. So follow the instructions in the manual, like I said, and attach the brackets that it comes with appropriately for the CPU that you got. So if you got the new Core i7, then obviously it's got the bracket for the Core i7 included in there. You can see it right here. Okay, and if you've got the standard LGA 775 that I just installed, well then the bracket obviously looks different, and it tells you in the instructions too. It shows you pictures, right? So you can't go wrong on installing it. And the back plate as well, it will show you the back plates that match. So if you got an AM3 or AM2 processor, you would use this combination here of plate and back plate for it. So once you've got all that established, obviously you've got the screws, that's pretty much standard, the thermal paste that it comes with, the washers, all of that there, so that way you can install it hassle-free. So if you're looking for a CPU cooler under 50 bucks that performs really well, especially for overclocking, then this is definitely recommended. So I'd like to thank Cooler Master for providing it, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.